My name is David Woodland. People call me Woody, and I'm the Chief Scientific Officer at Keystone Symposia. And I'd like to just spend a few minutes to remember Andy Robertson, who died in 2014 at the age of 55. So Andy was the former Chief Scientific Officer of Keystone Symposia and was instrumental in developing the current meeting on skin biology. So I think this is really the perfect venue just to say a few words and for us all to remember him. So Andy was born in Gardena, California. He really was a scientific mind. He had strong scientific training. He earned his bachelor's degree in biology at UC San Diego. He got a PhD in biochemistry at the University of Wisconsin-Madison and was a postdoctoral fellow at Stanford University. And he went on to become a full professor in biochemistry at the University of Iowa before dedicating his work to biomedical nonprofits like Keystone Symposia and the National Psoriasis Foundation. So Andy served as the Chief Scientific Officer from 2005 to 2011. And during this time, the position of Chief Scientific Officer was relatively new. People didn't really know how it should function. So Andy really served to define that position. He created the position in a way and figured out the best way for this particular position to integrate into the organization as a whole. And while he was at Keystone Symposia for those 6 or so years, he made a huge impact on the organization. And I just want to list a few of the things that Andy did for Keystone Symposia. One of the first things that he did was create a program in diversity. And Andy always felt that it was absolutely crucial that we bring in a diverse audience to our meetings. And he was particularly concerned about scientists from underrepresented backgrounds and making sure that they had a voice in the meeting. And so he actually created a whole department in Keystone Symposia dedicated to diversity, specifically for underrepresented groups. In this regard, he hired a prominent individual to run the program. Her name was Lena King, and developed a whole series of programs. He also actually wrote an NIH grant to fund the program, which was instrumental in getting it off the ground. And as I said, there were a lot of different elements to that diversity program. Part of it was to generate scholarships for young students. But also he created something called the Fellows Program, which is something we're extremely proud of. So every year we bring in about 6, 7, or maybe 8 scientists from underrepresented backgrounds who are at that key transitional point in their career. This is where you transition from a senior postdoc to a junior investigator, an assistant professor. And they come in and they work with our scientific advisory board, which is quite a grueling process to develop meetings in the future. So it's actually twice a year that they come in. And so not only do they get to work with about 100 prominent scientists on our scientific advisory board, but they get to know them. They receive mentorship, and actually we assign mentors within that program. So it's absolutely wonderful. The thing about this is that once you're a fellow, you're always a fellow, and so the years are connected. And this means that we're building a community of scientists from underrepresented backgrounds that's getting bigger every year, and we're so delighted that it's become a self-sustaining phenomena because all of these fellows meet on a regular basis. So in honor of Andy's contributions to our diversity program, we now have created a scholarship in his honor that will be awarded to scientists from underrepresented backgrounds to come to meetings just like this one. Second, the second major contribution that Andy made was that he really took our NIH grant writing process and revolutionized it. You know, I ran a Keystone meeting many years ago, and at that time I had to write the grant for scholarships. Andy changed all that. He brought the grant writing in-house, and I think as Frank and the others will testify, we do most of the work now in writing these grants. This turned out to be enormously successful, and just last year, for example, we wrote 50 R13 grants, and we got 49 of them. And I would like to take credit for that, but in fact, it was the systems that Andy put in place that really made that possible. So now we're able to bring students to our meetings that perhaps otherwise wouldn't be able to attend a meeting like this. Third, Andy really cared about the experience that attendees had in Keystone Symposia meetings, and he was working tirelessly to make that experience as excellent as he possibly could. Both from a scientific perspective, but also just from making the meetings really enjoyable. I'll give you a couple of examples. We had a meeting in China that really wasn't doing that well because a lot of the Chinese attendees didn't seem to be in the habit of asking questions and really networking in the way you might expect to see. And so he got up and started asking questions. He kind of led by example, and he cajoled people. He really pushed them to become more integrated into the meeting, and it ended up a huge success at the end of it. But that was his efforts. I think if he hadn't done that, it would not have been the success that it was. Another example is we bring travel awardees into some of our meetings. These are individuals from low and middle income countries who get their full cost of travel and everything to come to the meeting. And this is actually funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And he noticed that these travel awardees, and there might be 30 or so at a meeting, would basically hang out in a corner and not really become involved in the meeting. So he did a couple of things. The first thing he did was introduce a workshop at the beginning specifically for the travel awardees so that they really could get involved in the meeting in a sort of safe environment early on. And that we've continued because it was so successful. And the second thing he did was that he made sure that during the meeting they didn't hang around in the corner, and he introduced them to people, and he made sure that the other scientists at the meeting really embraced them. So this is just another example of sort of Andy's activities in our meetings. And then finally, Andy set a really high standard for programming and working with our SAB. And so the quality of our meetings is a testament to Andy. And I'm very grateful and honored to have been mentored by him. And I can only hope to do as good a job as he did in terms of the programming of the meetings. And I'd like to emphasize that, you know, as Frank said at the beginning, this whole meeting came about because of Andy's passion for science. And of course, with his move to the National Psoriasis Foundation, this was a topic that was dear to his heart. So he was very anxious that we do a meeting on this topic, and he really felt that Keystone Symposia would be the perfect venue, and he certainly cajoled me, and I agreed with him. So I'm absolutely delighted that we were able to see this come to fruition. And I only wish that Andy were here to see this. So I just want to close by saying that Andy was really highly respected and much loved at Keystone Symposia. He had a zest for life, a deep passion for science, and was always ready to roll up his sleeves and help people. He was demanding of others, but he provided a dynamic and inspirational force that's so crucial to not-for-profit organizations like Keystone Symposia and the National Psoriasis Foundation. And he also, it was a really fun guy to be around, and one of the things that Andy did was play the fiddle at meetings that he attended, or specifically at our scientific advisory boards. I really regret that I never saw him play, but I understand that he was very good. This was the only photo I could find of him doing this. So, to put it simply, Andy was an inspiration and a friend to me. He was a creative force at Keystone Symposia, a role model for everyone who was fortunate to interact with him, and he is really the grandfather of this particular meeting, and I hope that we'll be able to have other meetings on this topic in the future. Andy is dearly missed by his wife Sue, daughters Kelly and Sarah, his mother and two brothers, Jeffrey and Matthew. And I just want to mention that on Wednesday there will be a special workshop in his honor, which is supported by the National Psoriasis Foundation. I think it's going to be an excellent workshop, so I very much hope that you enjoy that. And with that, I'll close and just ask you to keep Andy in your thoughts as you go through this meeting. Thank you very much.